Hello and welcome back to the Wizards Arena. My name is Draymort, and today my fellow Planeswalkers will be looking at the Blue-Red deck. This is our second deck they've spoiled. First up we have, for 4 in a red, Sorcery, Demonstrate. Okay, this is the one whenever you cast it, you may have your opponent copy it. And then you get to copy it. You shuffle your library, reveal cards until you reveal a non-land card. Exile that card and put the rest on the bottom. And random, you may cast this card without paying its mana cost. So this is really random effect of will I get a good card or not. It just depends how lucky you get with the hit. And you scrying doesn't help because you're shuffling ahead of time. Basically, when you cast this, good luck. Enjoy the roll of the dice. This is a 4. Hope you have fun with that. Next up, Dazzling Sphinx. 3 and 2 blue. Flying 4/5 Sphinx. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then that player puts the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom in a random order. I like this card because it's a Sphinx that costs only 5. And it's on a decent body of a 4/5 flyer. So the chance of its ability working by hitting a player is pretty cool. Unfortunately, with it being that player you're smacking and not your deck, the chance of you getting a card that you want is pretty slim. But overall, I think this guy's worth a 5. Moving on. Next we have the Elemental Palette. 3. Whenever you cast a spell with X in its cost, put 2 counters on it. You tap to add 1 mana of any color. And the second one is tap, add a colors for each palette charger on it. Spend this only on a thing that contains X. And you don't remove the counters? Sweet. So this makes it better, but it's only a very specific deck. So for an X spell deck, it's a 7. Everything else, it's like a 2. This is the only deck you're running is an X spell deck. And X spell decks will love it. Fiery Encore, 4 and a red. Discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard a non-land card this way, it deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or walker. Storm. Well, because it doesn't have hit a player in the face, it's balanced, even though it has a storm mechanic on it. Pretty cool in the right kind of spell slinger deck. It's a 6. Moving on. Inferno Project. 6 and a red trampler. When he enters the battlefield, he gets X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the total MV of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. So he's a really big dumb trampler that costs a lot of mana. I won't even run this in my trample deck because I have mostly creatures in there. So I'm just going to give it a 4. It's okay. It's a big thing. Like if you're a mostly spell slinger deck and you need a finisher thing that's a creature, I guess. But no. Inspiring Reframe. 4 and 2 blue to draw 2 cards and exile it with 3 time counters on it. You can spend 2 in the blue, suspend for 3, and exile with 3 time counters on it. So basically what we're saying here is every 3 turns, you draw 2 cards. And that's a pretty cool little idea. It's not crazy. I feel this is a 4. You're not going to play it in every deck. It's a neat little thing. Moving on to our next card, which is the Muse Vortex. X and 2 blue. Exile the top X cards of your deck. You may cast an instant or sorcery from them with MV, X or less. And then put that exile instant and sorcery card that weren't cast this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom. So this is kind of neat. I spend like 5 and 2 blue. I potentially, let's say, I exile 3 cards and I resolve one of them, put 2 in hand. So it's not the greatest, because normally that spell would have cost you 5 or 4. So for like 3 extra mana, you're picking up 2 cards, and normally like you'd pay 3 mana to draw 2 cards. So it's not the worst thing. It's okay. It's a 5. They're trying to keep blue in check after all these crazy things they've given blue. Octavia the Living Thesis. 8 and 2 blue, legendary creature, elemental octopus, 8/8. How many 8s can we put on the card? 8 of them? No, we're going to put 7. Flavor fail. This spell costs 8 less to cast if you have 8 or more instants or sorceries in your graveyard. He has Ward of 8. And with Magecraft, whenever you cast a copy on instant or sorcery, target creature has base power and toughness of 8/8 until end of turn. So you can make your army of wizards, I guess, into 8/8s and beat face with them. I can't give him an 8 because he's not that good. I guess I'll give him half of an 8. 4. He's okay. Nothing crazy. Next up, Radiant Performer. 3 and 2 red. Human wizard with flash. 2/2. When she enters the battlefield, if you cast it from hand, basically she says, do Radiance, which is, if I am lightning bolting my first opponent, opponent 2, and he casts her, then the lightning bolt hits every single target it possibly can. So it's hitting all my creatures, all the players, all their creatures. So it even means she'll die from that lightning bolt too. It's a very limited usage. Obviously you wouldn't be using it with lightning bolt, but it's interesting. In certain decks it will be essential, I feel. Like a 4 overall because of how few decks will go in. Next up, we have Reinterpret. 2 a blue and a red instant, counter a spell. You may cast a spell with equal or lesser MV from your hand without paying its mana cost. So I counter your creature commander, and I reinterpret it, and it was a 6 cost, so I cast a 5 cost instant, or a 5 cost creature, or a 5 cost sorcery. So I left mana up, and I get to spend that mana on a counterspell, plus I get a free thing in my hand to come in. So I feel that's really good, and the advantage is also, if it's just something really big and horrendous, just counter target spell. Oh no, I don't get to do anything. Fine. You know, I countered something, that I didn't want to have happen, and I don't have anything to play because I only have this in my hand, it's still a good counter spell. So I feel like this is really good. This is a 9. It's a slam dunk. I love it. It would be probably a little bit higher if it was just mono blue, but I love it. Next up, we got a Fire Dancer. 3 and 2 red at the beginning of 3 and 2 red for 3/4 at the beginning of combat on your turn. Create X tokens that are copies of another target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of instants and sorceries you've cast this turn. They gain haste and exile them at the end of turn. Okay. So, a couple things have to happen here. 1, you have to have something you want to copy. And 2, you had to have had a couple instances of sorceries get cast on your turn. So this is one of the ones that goes in a build of where you're trying to do spell slinging with like half the deck being also creatures. So it's a weird little balance you're trying to occur. Like making 2 token copies of a thing could be very good. So maybe cast like 2 spells ahead of her combat phase. Like the best thing would be is to like cast like some version of Fork, and then Relentless Assault for 2 combat phases, and then you copy a guy on the field so you got more dudes. So now you have like 3 combat phases, and each combat phase you get to make the 2 tokens. So, you know, she's pretty good. It's going to be interesting. Originally I was going to give her a 6. I think a 7's valid. Next up, we have Rouse and Reframe. 3 and 2 red. You add a red for each card in target opponent's hand until end of turn. You don't lose that mana. Exile this card and 3 time counters on it. Suspend of 3, and cause a colorless and red to do that. So this is made for decks that are going to go the long game. I really like it. It's a lot of mana value. It's an 8. Going on to our next card. The Sly Instigator, which is 3 and a blue human wizard. A blue and tap it until your next turn target creature an opponent controls can't be blocked. That's pretty weird. Gold that creature. Oh, this is really good in, you know, a pillow fort deck or, you know, something along that lines. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna make the table fight themselves and I'll just stand over here in the corner and you guys can't get me. I like it a lot. But it's only going to go in very limited decks, so it's a 4. Next up, we have Surge to Victory. 4 and 2 red, exile target instant or sorcery card from your yard. Creatures you control get +X/+0, where X is the mana value. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player this turn, copy the exiled card and you may cast a copy for free. So, this is really good. Hopefully by turn 6 you have something in your yard you want to do this to. Obviously you will hold it back until you can do it to something you really want to. I think it's a neat idea. You know, a little chaotic, but that's what red does. It's a 5. Like it a lot. Next up. Oh baby. Viron, Voice of Duality. colorless, a blue, and a red. Legendary, a Freet Wizard. Magecraft. She gets +1/+1 for every time you cast an instant or sorcery or copy one. Sure. That goes away at end of turn. Okay. She's a 2/2. If you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, if it triggers an ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers again. Oh, so she's a Panharmonicon for an instant or sorcery. That's just crazy. I love her. She's amazing. She's probably, like, she's so good. Like, she's not the best card in the deck, but she's tied with it almost. Yeah, she is. She's a 9. She's just crazy. That is deck number 2. Deck 3 will be the blue-green deck. I'll see you guys in the next video. My name's been Draymore with the Wizards Arena. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment below. And you have yourselves a great day.